The morning sun cast long shadows across the old stone inn as Elena wiped down the wooden tables for what felt like the 100th time that week. At 28, she had grown used to the quiet life of running her family's inn, but that didn't make the loneliness any easier to bear. Her reflection caught her eye in the polished surface of a pewter mug. The scar that ran from her left temple down to her jaw had faded over the years, but it still made her turn away from mirrors. She remembered the night of the fire when she was just 7 years old. While saving her baby sister from their burning cottage, a falling beam had marked her face forever. "Elena, dear, you're polishing that table so hard you might wear a hole through it," called her mother from the kitchen doorway. Margaret had grown frail in recent years, and her husband, William, spent most of his days by the fire, his legs too weak to help with the inn's daily tasks. "Just keeping busy, Mother," Elena replied, forcing a smile. She had learned long ago that keeping busy was better than thinking too much about the things she couldn't change. The inn had seen better days. What was once a thriving stop for travelers had become a place where only the poorest merchants stayed. The roof leaked in 3 places, the stairs creaked dangerously, and the walls needed fresh paint. But it was home, and it was all they had left. Elena's younger sister Catherine had married a wealthy baker's son 2 years ago and moved to the capital city. She wrote letters sometimes, filled with stories of balls and beautiful dresses. Elena was happy for her sister, truly she was, but each letter was a reminder of the life she would never have. The sound of horses' hooves on cobblestones made Elena look up from her work. Through the window she saw a group of well-dressed men on fine horses approaching the inn. Her heart skipped a beat. Wealthy guests could mean enough coin to fix the roof before winter came. The door swung open and in walked the most handsome man Elena had ever seen. He was tall with dark hair and kind brown eyes. His clothes marked him as nobility, but there was something gentle in his manner that made Elena feel less nervous than usual around important visitors. "Good morning," he said with a warm smile. "I'm Lord Benedict and these are my men. We're traveling south and heard your inn serves the finest meals in the region." Elena felt her cheeks grow warm. "We do our best, my lord. Please, sit wherever you'd like. I'll bring you some fresh bread and ale." As she served the men, Lord Benedict's eyes followed her movements. Instead of the usual looks of pity or disgust she received when strangers noticed her scar, his expression held something that made her heart flutter with dangerous hope. "This bread is magnificent," he said as she refilled his mug. "Did you make it yourself?" "Yes, my lord, it's my grandmother's recipe." "And you run this place alone?" "I help my parents. They're not as strong as they once were." Lord Benedict nodded, thoughtfully. "That shows great character. Family loyalty is rare these days." Over the following days, Lord Benedict and his men remained at the inn. He said they were waiting for safe passage through the southern mountains, but Elena began to suspect he was staying for other reasons. He would sit by the fire in the evenings asking her about her life, her dreams, her thoughts on everything from books to the changing seasons. "You're much more interesting than most people I meet at court," he told her one evening as she swept around his chair. "They talk only of gossip and gold. You speak of real things." Elena's heart soared. Could it be possible that someone like Lord Benedict could see past her scarred face to who she really was inside? For the first time in years, she allowed herself to dream of a different future. Their conversations grew longer each night. Benedict told her about his travels, his family's estate, the books he'd read. Elena shared her love of caring for travelers, her skill with healing herbs, her dream of someday seeing the ocean. When he laughed at her stories, she felt beautiful. "You have such wisdom," he said one evening, reaching across the table to gently touch her hand. "And your scar, it doesn't make you less beautiful. It makes you more interesting. It tells a story of courage." Elena could barely breathe. No one had ever spoken to her this way. When Benedict's fingers traced lightly along her scarred cheek, she closed her eyes and let herself believe in miracles. The other villagers began to notice Lord Benedict's attention to Elena. Some whispered cruel things about her putting on airs, above her station. Others seemed genuinely happy that the innkeeper's daughter might find love at last. Elena tried not to listen to either group, but hope had taken root in her heart like a flower after a long winter. 3 weeks after his arrival, Benedict asked Elena to walk with him in the garden behind the inn. The evening air was sweet with the scent of roses her mother had planted years ago. Elena wore her best dress, a simple blue gown that brought out her eyes. "Elena," Benedict began, taking her hands in his, "these past weeks have been special, to me. You've reminded me that there's goodness in the world." Elena's heart pounded so hard she was sure he could hear it. "They've been special to me too, my lord. I want you to know that our friendship has meant everything to me." Something in his tone made Elena's stomach drop. The word, friendship, seemed to echo in her ears. "My lord?" Benedict looked away from her face. "I've received word that I must leave tomorrow morning. There's been a change in my circumstances." "A change?" Elena whispered. "I'm to be married. The arrangements were made by my family while I was away. Lady Victoria, the daughter of Duke Harrison. It's a good match for both our houses." The words hit Elena like a physical blow. The garden seemed to spin around her. "Married? I'm sorry, Elena. If things were different, if I were free to choose." He touched her face one more time. "You'll always hold a special place in my heart." Elena pulled away from his touch. "A special place?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "You've been such a comfort during a difficult time. Your kindness, your listening ear, it's meant more than you know." The truth crashed over Elena like ice water. She had been nothing more than a pleasant distraction, a way to pass time while he waited for word from his real life. The life where someone like her could never belong. "I see," she said, her voice steady despite the screaming in her chest. "Elena, please don't look at me like that. What we shared was real." "What we shared," Elena repeated slowly. "You shared your stories. I shared my heart." Benedict's face showed something that might have been guilt. "I never meant to mislead you." "No," Elena said, stepping back from him. "You never said you loved me. You never promised me anything. The mistake was mine for believing that someone could want me. Elena, that's not—" "Please go inside, my lord. You have an early journey tomorrow." That night, Elena sat by her window, watching Benedict's room. She saw his candle burning late into the night and wondered if he felt even a moment's regret. When morning came, she watched from behind her curtains as he and his men loaded their horses and rode away, without a backward glance. The whispers started immediately. The village baker's wife made sure everyone knew that she had predicted it, all along. "Girls like Elena need to know their place," she said loudly in the market square. "Scars don't wash off with wishful thinking." For 3 days, Elena bore the pitying looks and cruel comments. She served her guests, helped her mother, with cooking and mended tears in the inn's old linens, but inside something was breaking apart piece by piece. On the 4th night, as she was closing the inn, Elena overheard 2 young men at the corner table talking. "Did you hear about the innkeeper's daughter?" one said. "She actually thought Lord Benedict would marry her." "Poor thing," the other replied. "Though I suppose she should have known better. Men like that don't marry women like her. No man ever wants damaged goods." Those words echoed in Elena's head as she finished her work. When the last guest had gone to bed and her parents were asleep, she walked out of the inn and into the forest. She needed to be alone with her pain where no one could see her fall apart. Deep in the woods beside a stream where she used to play as a child, Elena finally let herself cry. All the tears she had held back for 4 days poured out of her like a dam bursting. She cried for her foolish hope, for her broken dreams, for the cruel reminder that her face would always mark her as different. "No man ever wanted me," she sobbed to the uncaring stars. "No man ever will." She was so lost in her grief that she didn't hear the footsteps until a gentle voice spoke from the shadows. "That's not true." Elena looked up to see a tall figure stepping into the moonlight. He was a man of perhaps 35 years, wearing simple traveling clothes and carrying a soldier's pack. His face was weathered and marked with scars of his own, a thin line across his forehead, another along his jaw. His eyes were gray and serious, but there was kindness in them. "I'm sorry," Elena said, wiping her face. "I didn't know anyone else was here." "I was making camp downstream," the man said quietly. "I heard crying and came to see if someone needed help." Elena laughed bitterly. "Help? No one can help me. I'm exactly what people say I am. Damaged, unwanted, foolish, forever thinking otherwise." The stranger was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke words that would change everything. "If no man has ever wanted you, then they were all fools. And if you believe no man ever could want you, then you're wrong about that too." Elena stared at him. "You don't even know me." "I know enough." Elena stared at the stranger who had just promised to guard her with his life. In the moonlight, she could see the sincerity in his gray eyes, but years of disappointment had taught her to be careful with hope. "You can't mean that," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You don't even know me." Gareth sat back on his heels, his weathered hands resting on his knees. "I know you're sitting in a forest at midnight crying over someone who hurt you. I know you care so deeply that betrayal nearly broke you. That tells me everything I need to know about your heart." "My heart is foolish," Elena said, wiping her face with her sleeve. "No," Gareth replied firmly. "Your heart is brave. It takes courage to love, knowing you might get hurt." Elena studied this unexpected man. His clothes were simple but well made, his boots worn from long travel. The sword at his side was clearly well used, and the way he carried himself spoke of years, of training and battle, but there was something gentle in his manner that made her feel safe rather than afraid. "Why would you make such a promise to a stranger?" she asked. Gareth was quiet for a long moment, looking at the stream flowing past them in the darkness. "Because I know what it's like to believe you're not worth protecting," he said finally. "And because someone should have made that promise to you a long time ago." Something in his voice told Elena there was pain behind his words, but she didn't press. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the water and the night sounds of the forest. "I should go back," Elena said eventually. "My parents will worry if they wake and find me gone." "Let me walk with you," Gareth offered, standing and offering her his hand. Elena hesitated, then took it. His hand was calloused from years of sword work, but his touch was gentle as he helped her to her feet. They walked back through the forest together, neither speaking much. When they reached the edge of the village, Elena expected Gareth to bid her farewell and continue on his way. Instead, he stopped at the inn stable. "The innkeeper wouldn't mind if a traveler stayed the night in the stable, would she?" he asked. "I can pay for hay for my horse and a place to sleep." Elena blinked in surprise. "You're staying?" "If you'll have me. I told you I'd guard you. That's hard to do from 50 miles away. But I thought, you must have somewhere to go." "Business to attend to?" Gareth shrugged. "I'm a knight without a lord at the moment. My last duty was completed when I delivered a message to the northern kingdoms. I have nowhere pressing to be." Elena felt that dangerous flutter of hope again. "You really mean to stay?" "For as long as you'll let me." The next morning, Elena woke to the sound of hammering. She dressed quickly and ran outside to find Gareth on the stable roof, replacing broken shingles that had been letting rain in for months. "What are you doing?" she called up to him. "Earning my keep," Gareth called back. "A warrior's hands are good for more than just holding swords." Elena's mother appeared beside her, shading her eyes to look up at the roof. "Who is this man, Elena?" "His name is Sir Gareth. He's a traveler who needed a place to stay." Margaret studied her daughter's face carefully. "And what does he want in return for fixing our roof?" "Nothing, Mother. He just wants to help." Margaret didn't sound entirely convinced, but she went back inside to start breakfast. Over the following days, Gareth proved to be a man of his word. He repaired the stable roof, then moved on to fixing the loose steps that had been dangerous for months. He mended broken shutters, reinforced weak fence posts, and somehow convinced the inn's old well to give clean water again. The villagers began to take notice. At first, they were suspicious of this scarred stranger who had appeared from nowhere and taken up residence at the inn. But Gareth was unfailingly polite to everyone he met, and his skill with repairs was undeniable. "Where did you find him?" asked Thomas the blacksmith, watching Gareth expertly reset a horseshoe for a traveler's mount. "He found me," Elena replied, which was true enough. Elena found herself watching Gareth work, fascinated by the way he approached every task with the same careful attention he probably gave to sword fighting. When he caught her staring, he would smile. Not the charming smile that Benedict had used to win her trust, but something quieter and more real. "You don't have to do all this work," she told him one evening as he cleaned his tools after rebuilding a section of fence. "I want to," he said simply. "Besides, I like working with my hands. It's peaceful after years of fighting." "You were a soldier?" Gareth nodded, sitting down on a wooden crate beside the stable. "For 15 years. I fought in the Northern Wars, served under Lord Commander Hayes until he died in battle." "Is that how you got those scars?" Gareth touched the thin line across his forehead unconsciously. "These? No, these are from much older battles. The scars that matter don't show on the outside." Elena understood that feeling all too well. "Do you miss it, being a soldier?" "I miss the brotherhood, fighting alongside men who would die for you, and knowing you'd do the same for them." Gareth's eyes grew distant. "But I don't miss the killing. I've seen enough death to last several lifetimes." "Then why do you still carry your sword?" "Because sometimes the only way to protect what matters is to be ready to fight for it." Their conversations became a nightly routine. After Elena finished her work at the inn and her parents had gone to bed, she would find Gareth by the stable, usually carving something from wood or tending to his weapons. They would talk for hours about everything and nothing: her childhood, memories, his travels, books they had read, dreams they had abandoned. Gareth was different from any man Elena had ever known. He listened without trying to fix her problems or offer empty comfort. When she told him about the cruel comments from villagers after Benedict left, he didn't tell her to ignore them or that they didn't matter. Instead, he said, "Their words hurt because you have a tender heart. Don't let their cruelty make you hard." "Sometimes I think being hard would be easier," Elena admitted. "It would be," Gareth agreed. "But the world has enough hard people. It needs more people like you. People who still believe in goodness despite being hurt." Elena began to look forward to these evening conversations more than anything else. In her day, Gareth made her feel heard in a way no one else ever had. When she talked about her dreams of traveling to see the ocean, he didn't laugh or tell her it was impractical. Instead, he described the ports he had visited and promised to take her there someday if she wanted. "You'd really do that?" she asked. "One night." "Elena," Gareth said seriously, "I told you I'd guard you with my whole life. That includes guarding your dreams too." But Elena still struggled with doubt. Late at night, when she was alone in her room, the old voices would whisper in her head. This was too good to be true. Gareth was only being kind out of pity. He would leave eventually, just like Benedict had, and she would be left more broken than before. One morning she woke to find Gareth talking quietly with a well-dressed merchant in the inn's courtyard. The merchant was holding a purse of coins and gesturing toward the road. Elena's heart clenched with familiar fear. She waited until the merchant left before approaching Gareth. "Was he offering you work?" "He was," Gareth said, not denying it. "Good. Work? Well-paying?" "Very well-paying. He needs protection for a caravan traveling to the Eastern Kingdoms. 3 months of work, enough gold to buy a small farm." Elena forced herself to smile. "That sounds like a wonderful opportunity." Gareth studied her face carefully. "It would be if I wanted it. But you don't?" "Elena, look at me." When she met his eyes, he continued, "I made you a promise. Do you think I'm the kind of man who breaks his word for money?" I... No, but... But what? Elena's composure cracked. But why would you give up a chance like that for me? I'm just a scarred innkeeper's daughter. You could have a real life, a future. Gareth stepped closer to her. What do you think this is? What do you think I've been building here with you? I don't know, Elena whispered. I'm afraid to think about it. Then don't think, Gareth said gently. Just trust. Can you do that? Elena wanted to say yes, but the fear was too strong. What if you change your mind? What if you wake up one day and realize you've wasted your time on someone who isn't worth it? Elena. Gareth's voice was firm but kind. I fought beside the bravest men in the kingdom. I've known nobles and peasants, scholars and fools. I've never met anyone with more worth than you. You barely know me. I know you wake before dawn to bake fresh bread for travelers you'll never see again. I know you sit up all night when someone is sick, bringing them water and cool cloths for their fever. I know you give your last coin to beggars even when your own family struggles. Elena stared at him. How do you know all that? Because I've been watching. I've been learning who you really are. And every day I'm more certain that I made the right choice when I promised to stay. That afternoon, Elena was working in the inn's kitchen when she heard raised voices from the common room. She hurried out to find two local men, both clearly drunk, confronting Gareth. You think you're better than us? One of them, a farmer named Hugh, was saying loudly. Coming here with your fancy sword and your airs? I think no such thing, Gareth replied calmly. Then why won't you drink with us? Too good for local ale? I don't drink to excess anymore. I've seen where that leads. 3 months had passed since Gareth arrived at the inn, and Elena's world had transformed in ways she never imagined possible. The repairs he'd made had turned their struggling establishment into one of the most welcoming stops in the region. Word had spread about the excellent food, comfortable rooms, and the kind innkeeper's daughter who remembered every guest's name. But more than that, Elena herself had changed. The woman who once avoided mirrors now caught herself humming while she worked. The scars were still there, but they no longer felt like the most important thing about her face when Gareth looked at her with such warmth in his gray eyes. They had fallen into a comfortable rhythm together. Gareth would wake before dawn to tend the horses and check the inn's security. Elena would prepare breakfast while her parents slept in. They would work side by side throughout the day, and in the evenings, they would sit by the stable talking until the stars came out. They hadn't spoken of love yet, but it hung between them like morning sunshine, warming everything it touched. Elena could feel it in the way Gareth's hand would linger on hers when he passed her a tool. She could see it in the way his eyes followed her movements across the room, and she knew he could see it in her face too, in the way she smiled only for him. Elena was hanging laundry behind the inn one morning when she noticed a group of riders approaching from the direction of the capital. Her hand stilled on the clothesline when she recognized the lead horse, a magnificent black stallion that belonged to only one man. Benedict had returned. Elena's first instinct was to run inside and hide, but she forced herself to stand her ground. She was not the same broken woman who had fled to the forest 3 months ago. She had found her worth, found someone who saw her value. She could face this. Benedict dismounted and approached her with the same charming smile she remembered so well. But now she could see something desperate in his eyes that she had missed before. Elena, he said warmly, as if no time had passed at all. You look wonderful. The country air clearly agrees with you. Lord Benedict, Elena replied coolly. I didn't expect to see you again. Didn't you? His smile faltered slightly. I told you that you held a special place in my heart. Elena continued hanging close, not looking at him. How is your wife? Victoria is, well, she's with child now. Benedict moved closer. But Elena, I need to speak with you. About us. There is no us, my lord. There never was. Benedict reached for her hand, but Elena stepped back. You don't understand. Things have changed. My marriage, it's not what I hoped it would be. Victoria's father has demanded dowries and payments I can't afford. I'm facing financial ruin unless... Unless what? Elena asked, though she was beginning to have a terrible suspicion about where this conversation was heading. Unless I can secure additional lands and income. Elena, your family owns valuable property here. This inn, the stables, the fields behind them, together they're worth enough to solve my problems. Elena stared at him. You want to buy our land? I want to marry you. Benedict's words came out in a rush. I know what you're thinking, but hear me out. My marriage to Victoria was arranged by contract, nothing more. You could be my true companion, the woman I actually chose. I could set you up in a fine house, give you everything you deserve. While your pregnant wife lives in your castle? Elena's voice was ice. These arrangements are common among nobility. Victoria would understand. She married me for political alliance, not love. But you and I, Elena, what we have is real. Elena felt sick. What we have nothing, Benedict. We never did. That's not true. Benedict grabbed her arm. I think about you constantly. You haunt my dreams. When I'm with Victoria, it's your face I see. Let go of me. Elena's voice was deadly quiet. Elena, please. I'm offering you everything you ever wanted. A title, wealth, a place in society. No one will ever look at your scars with pity again. You'll be Lady Victoria's favored companion, respected and honored. As your mistress, Elena said flatly. As the woman I love. Benedict's mask was slipping now, revealing the desperation underneath. I made a mistake before. I was young and foolish, listening to my family about duty and obligation. But I've learned that none of that matters without love. Elena yanked her arm free from his grasp. You don't know what love is, Benedict. Love doesn't abandon someone when things get difficult. Love doesn't return months later asking that person to destroy their reputation to solve your problems. Your reputation? Benedict laughed harshly. Elena, be realistic. What reputation do you have to protect? You're an innkeeper's daughter with a scarred face. I'm offering you the chance to be something more. The words hit like a physical blow, but Elena stood straight. I am something more. I always was. The problem was that I let people like you convince me otherwise. People like me. Benedict's charm was completely gone now, replaced by ugly desperation. I'm a lord. I'm offering you a life beyond your wildest dreams. My dreams don't include betraying someone's trust and becoming a kept woman, Elena said firmly. Find another solution to your problems, my lord. One that doesn't involve destroying innocent people. Benedict's face darkened. You think you can dismiss me? You think you have choices here? He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a threatening whisper. Your family owes substantial back taxes to the crown. I could have you arrested for tax evasion. I could seize this property to pay your debts. Elena's blood ran cold. Our taxes are current. Are they? According to my records, you owe nearly 200 gold pieces in penalties and interest. More than this inn could earn in 5 years. That's impossible. We've never missed a payment. Benedict smiled coldly. Haven't you? I suppose you'll have to take that up with the tax collectors. Unless, of course, you'd prefer to resolve this matter privately. Marry me, Elena. Give me this land as your dowry. I'll make sure all your tax problems disappear. Elena realized with growing horror that Benedict had planned this carefully. He had the power to fabricate tax debts, to seize their property, to destroy her family, and he was threatening to do exactly that unless she agreed to become his mistress. You're despicable, she whispered. I'm in love, Benedict replied. And I'm desperate. That makes me dangerous, Elena. Don't test me on this. Before Elena could respond, a calm voice spoke from behind her. I think the lady has made her position clear. Both Elena and Benedict turned to see Gareth standing a few feet away, his hand resting casually on his sword hilt. How long had he been listening? This is a private conversation, Benedict said, trying to regain his authority. Not anymore. Gareth's gray eyes were as cold as winter frost. The lady asked you to leave her alone. You should do that now. Benedict looked Gareth up and down dismissively. And who are you to interfere in matters above your station? I'm someone who keeps his promises, Gareth replied quietly. And I promise to protect Elena from anyone who would harm her. Harm her? Benedict laughed. I'm offering her the chance of a lifetime. You're threatening her family and trying to extort her into becoming your mistress. Where I come from, we call that harm. Benedict's face flushed red. You dare speak to me that way? I am Lord Benedict of House Aldrich. And I'm Sir Gareth Ironwood, Knight of the Northern Wars. Your title doesn't impress me and your threats don't frighten me. Elena watched the confrontation with growing fear. Benedict had wealth and political power. He could make their lives miserable with a word, but Gareth stood unmoved, meeting the Lord's fury with steady calm. You think your sword makes you my equal? Benedict sneered. I have 20 men camped outside the village. One word from me and they'll burn this place to the ground. Then you'd better be very careful with your words, Gareth said softly, because if you harm Elena or her family, title or no title, I'll hunt you to the ends of the earth. The threat hung in the air between them. Benedict's eyes darted between Gareth's scarred face and the well-worn sword at his side, clearly calculating whether this unknown knight was truly as dangerous as he seemed. This isn't over, Benedict said finally. Elena, you have 3 days to reconsider my offer. After that, the tax collectors will come calling, and they won't be as generous as I've been. He turned and strode back to his horse, mounting with angry, jerky movements. As he rode away, he called back, 3 days, Elena. Choose wisely. Elena watched him disappear down the road, her legs suddenly shaky. Gareth was beside her in an instant, his strong hands steadying her. Are you all right? He asked gently. No, Elena whispered. No, I'm not all right. He can destroy us, Gareth. If he really has fabricated tax debts, if he brings collectors with false records, we'll lose everything. My parents will have nowhere to go. We'll figure something out, Gareth said firmly. There has to be a way to fight this. Elena shook her head. You don't understand how power works. Men like Benedict don't make threats they can't carry out. He probably has documents already prepared, officials already paid off. We're common people, Gareth. We have no rights against a lord's word. That evening, Elena's parents listened in, shocked silence as she explained Benedict's ultimatum. Her father, William, looked older than his years as he processed the news. 200 gold pieces, he said slowly. Even if we sold everything we own, we couldn't raise half that much. The morning of the second day dawned gray and overcast, matching Elena's mood as she went about her usual tasks. Every sound made her jump, expecting to see Benedict returning with his threatened tax collectors. But the day passed quietly, and she began to hope that maybe Gareth's confidence had been justified. That hope was shattered when Thomas the blacksmith burst through the inn's door just as Elena was serving dinner to a family of traveling merchants. Elena, Thomas called out, his face flushed from running. You need to know. There are official riders coming up the main road. They're flying the tax collector's banner. Elena's hands went numb. The plate she'd been holding crashed to the floor, shattering into pieces that scattered across the wooden planks. The traveling family looked up in alarm, but Elena barely noticed them. How many riders? Gareth's calm voice came from the doorway where he'd appeared at the first sound of commotion. 6, Thomas replied. All armed, all wearing official colors. And Elena? He hesitated, looking uncomfortable. What is it? Elena managed to ask. Lord Benedict is with them. He's got papers in his hand, official-looking documents with wax seals. Elena felt the room spinning around her. This was it. Benedict was making good on his threat, and there was nothing they could do to stop him. Gareth moved to her side immediately, his strong hand steadying her. Elena, listen to me. Remember what we talked about. Don't let fear make your decisions, for you. But Elena could barely hear him over the roaring in her ears. Her parents would lose their home. They would be thrown into the streets with nothing, all because she had dared to refuse a lord's demands. The sound of horses' hooves on cobblestones announced the arrival of Benedict's party. Through the window, Elena could see the official riders, dismounting, their leather armor gleaming despite the cloudy day. Benedict sat tall on his black stallion, looking every inch the powerful nobleman. Elena. Her father's voice was shaky but determined as he appeared from the kitchen, her mother, close behind him. Whatever happens, we face it together as a family. Elena nodded, trying to find her courage. Gareth squeezed her hand once, then stepped slightly in front of her in a protective gesture that didn't go unnoticed. The door opened without a knock, and Benedict strode in, followed by a thin, sharp-faced man wearing the official robes of a royal tax collector. The other 4 men remained outside, but their presence was felt nonetheless. "Good evening," Benedict said with false pleasantness. "I believe you know why we're here." The tax collector stepped forward, unrolling a scroll with elaborate seals. "By order of the Royal Treasury, this property is hereby seized for non-payment of taxes in the amount of 215 gold pieces, including penalties and interest." Elena's mother gasped. Her father stepped forward, his old soldier's bearing evident despite his age. "There must be some mistake. We've never missed a tax payment." The tax collector's smile was thin and cold. "According to our records, you have been delinquent for over 2 years. The debt has been compounding with interest and penalties for non-payment." "That's impossible," William said firmly. "I have receipts for every payment we've made." "Old receipts can be lost or forged," Benedict said smoothly. "The official records are what matter here." Elena watched this exchange with growing understanding of just how thoroughly Benedict had planned this. He had used his connections and influence to create false records, probably bribing officials along the way. Her family had no recourse against such systematic corruption. "However," Benedict continued, "I am prepared to be generous. As a gesture of goodwill toward an old friend, I am willing to pay the family's debt in exchange for the property deed. They would be free to continue operating the inn under my ownership, paying only a modest rent." It was a lie wrapped in false kindness, but Elena could see how it would sound to any neutral observer. Benedict would appear to be helping them while actually stealing their home and forcing Elena into the position of depending on his generosity. "That's very kind of you, my lord," the tax collector said with obvious approval. "Such generosity toward the common folk is admirable." Elena realized that the tax collector was probably in Benedict's pay as well. This entire scene was theater, designed to give Benedict's theft the appearance of legality. "We don't accept," Elena said clearly. Everyone in the room turned to stare at her. Benedict's eyes narrowed dangerously. "Elena," her mother whispered, "maybe we should consider—" "No, mother. We won't give him our home in exchange for his lies." The tax collector looked confused. "Miss, you don't seem to understand. If you cannot pay the debt immediately, the property will be seized by the Crown. You'll have nothing." "Then we'll have nothing, honestly," Elena replied. "But we won't be robbed by a man who calls theft generosity." Benedict's mask finally slipped. "You stubborn, foolish girl, I'm offering you the best deal you'll ever get. Refuse me, and I'll make sure you and your family never find work in this kingdom again." "Threatening innocent people now, Benedict?" Gareth's voice was deadly quiet. "How noble of you. Stay out of this, sellsword. This is family business." "Elena is my business," Gareth said simply, "and I don't let people harm what's mine." Benedict laughed harshly. "Your business? What could a scarred innkeeper's daughter possibly be to a wandering knight? A bit of entertainment while you're passing through?" The words were clearly designed to hurt Elena and make her doubt Gareth's feelings. But Elena had learned to recognize love when she saw it, and she could see it burning fiercely in Gareth's gray eyes. "Elena is the woman I'm going to marry," Gareth said calmly, "which makes her family my family. Which means your threats against them are threats against me." Elena's heart stopped. Marriage? Gareth had never mentioned marriage, but looking at his face, she could see he wasn't just saying it to anger Benedict. He meant it. Benedict's face went white with rage. "Marry her? You think I'll let some nobody knight steal what belongs to me?" "Elena doesn't belong to you," Gareth replied. "She doesn't belong to anyone. She chooses her own path." "Not if she's dead, she doesn't." The threat hung in the air like poison. The tax collector took a step back, clearly not having expected the situation to turn violent. Elena's parents moved closer together, fear evident on their faces. Gareth's hand moved to his sword hilt. Are you threatening to murder an innocent woman because she won't become your mistress? I'm protecting my interests, Benedict snarled. Elena, last chance. Come with me willingly or I'll take what I want by force. She's not going anywhere with you, Gareth said firmly. Benedict gestured to the window, where his armed men were visible. 4 against 1 knight, even you aren't that good. Maybe not, Gareth agreed. But I'll make sure you don't live to enjoy your victory. Elena couldn't let this happen. She couldn't watch Gareth die because of her problems. There had to be another way. Stop, she said loudly. Both men turned to look at her. Benedict, you want me to choose? Fine. I challenge you to single combat for my freedom. Everyone stared at her in shock. Women didn't issue challenges, especially not to trained warriors. Elena? No. Gareth started to protest, but she held up a hand. This is my choice to make. Benedict, you claim I belong to you. I say I belong to myself. Let's settle it the honorable way, single combat. If you win, I'll come with you. If you lose, you leave us alone forever. Benedict laughed incredulously. You? Fight me? Elena, I'm a trained swordsman. Then it should be easy for you, Elena replied, unless you're afraid to fight a scarred innkeeper's daughter. The insult hit its mark. Benedict's face flushed red. Fine, but when I win, you come willingly. No more protests, no more delays. And if I win, you tear up those false tax documents and never bother my family again. Agreed. Benedict turned to the tax collector. You witnessed this agreement? The thin man nodded nervously. Yes, my lord. Elena felt Gareth's hand on her arm. Elena, what are you doing? You can't fight him. I can try, she said quietly. And if I fail, at least you won't die for my sake. I won't let you do this. Elena looked into his eyes, trying to convey everything she couldn't say with others. Listening. Trust me, please. Something in her expression made Gareth step back, though she could see the anguish in his face. At least let me be your second. If something goes wrong. Nothing will go wrong, Elena said with more confidence than she felt. The group moved outside where Benedict's men had lit torches against the gathering dusk. Word had spread quickly through the village and people were gathering to watch the strange spectacle of a woman challenging a lord to combat. Elena accepted a sword from Thomas the blacksmith. Nothing fancy, just a good, sturdy blade. She had no training, no experience with real fighting, but she had watched Gareth practice every day for months, and she had something Benedict didn't have, the absolute certainty that she was fighting for what was right. Benedict drew his own sword, a beautiful weapon with an ornate hilt. He was smiling again, confident in his victory. Any last words, Elena? Any regrets about refusing my generous offers? Just one, Elena replied, raising her sword. I regret that it took me so long to realize you were never worth my tears. Benedict's smile faltered. With a snarl of rage, he lunged forward. Elena barely managed to get her sword up in time to block his first strike. The force of it nearly knocked her off her feet, and she realized. The weeks following Benedict's defeat brought a peace to Elena's life that she had never imagined possible. Word of her victory had spread throughout the region, bringing curious travelers to the inn who wanted to meet the woman who had faced down a lord and won. Business flourished as never before, and Elena found herself busier than ever. But it was a good kind of busy, filled with purpose and hope. More importantly, the respect in people's eyes had changed. Where once she had seen pity or disgust when strangers noticed her scar, now she saw admiration and curiosity. The story had grown in the telling, as stories do, but the heart of it remained true. Elena had stood up for herself and her family when it mattered most. Gareth had officially asked her parents for permission to marry Elena, a conversation that had brought tears to her mother's eyes and made her father prouder than Elena had seen him in years. The wedding was planned for the first warm day of spring. giving them time to prepare properly and to save enough money for a celebration that would honor their love. But their peaceful interlude was not to last. The first sign of trouble came. On a crisp morning in late autumn when a messenger arrived at the inn, his horse lathered with sweat from hard riding, Elena brought him ale and bread while Gareth read the official dispatch he carried. "What is it?" Elena asked, seeing the way Gareth's face had gone pale. "Raiders," Gareth said grimly. "A large force, moving south through the mountain passes. They've already destroyed 2 villages and are heading this way." Elena felt her stomach drop. "How long do we have?" 3 days, maybe 4 if the weather slows them down." The messenger nodded confirmation. "The king's army is mobilizing, but they're 2 weeks away at best. All settlements in the raiders' path are advised to evacuate or prepare to defend themselves." After the messenger left, continuing his route to warn other villages, Elena and Gareth sat in the inn's common room discussing their options. Elena's parents joined them, along with Thomas the blacksmith and several other village leaders who had come as soon as word spread. "We should evacuate," said Constance, the baker's wife. "Pack what we can carry and head south until the danger passes." "And go where?" asked Thomas. "We'd be refugees with nothing but the clothes on our backs. What kind of life is that?" "Better than being dead," Constance replied sharply. Elena listened to the debate with a heavy heart. These people had homes here, businesses built over generations, lives rooted in this place. Asking them to abandon everything was asking them to abandon themselves. "What if we stayed and fought?" she asked quietly. The room fell silent. Finally, her father spoke. "Elena, we're farmers and shopkeepers, not soldiers. We wouldn't stand a chance against trained raiders." "We wouldn't be alone," Elena said, looking at Gareth. "We have a knight among us, someone who could teach us, lead us." All eyes turned to Gareth. He was quiet for a long moment, clearly weighing their options. "It would be dangerous," he said finally. "Very dangerous. I could train you in basic formations and tactics, but raiders are brutal fighters with nothing to lose. You would die. Some of us will die anyway if we run," Elena pointed out. "Old people can't travel fast, children get sick. Winter's coming and we'd have no shelter, no supplies." Gareth nodded slowly. "That's true. And there's something else to consider. If every village evacuates, the raiders will have free rein to loot and burn everything in their path. They'll grow stronger with each victory, bolder with each success. Eventually, someone has to make a stand." Thomas straightened his broad shoulders. "I'm not afraid to fight for my home. My grandfather built this smithy with his own hands. I won't abandon it without a fight." One by one, others began to voice their agreement. These were simple people, but they had courage when it was needed. Elena felt a surge of pride in her community. "Then we make our stand here," Gareth said, "but understand what that means. We're not just fighting for our homes. We're fighting for our lives, for our families, for everything we hold dear. If we do this, we do it together, and we don't give up no matter how desperate things get." The next 3 days passed in a blur of frantic preparation. Gareth worked tirelessly, organizing the village's defenses and training anyone strong enough to hold a weapon. Elena found herself at the center of the effort, coordinating supplies, tending to injuries from training accidents, and keeping everyone's spirits up. She discovered she had a gift for leadership that she never knew existed. People listened to her, trusted her judgment, looked to her for guidance when Gareth was busy with military preparations. The woman who had once believed herself worthless was becoming the heart of her community's resistance. "You're amazing," Gareth told her on the second night as they worked together reinforcing the inn's shutters. "I've seen lords who couldn't inspire half the loyalty you've earned from these people." "They're not following me," Elena protested. "They're following you. You're the one with military experience." "No, Elena, they trust my tactics, but they're fighting for you. For the woman who stood up to Benedict, who showed them that courage isn't about being fearless. It's about being afraid and doing what's right anyway." Elena looked around at the villagers working by lamplight, hammering boards over windows, sharpening farming tools into weapons, preparing to defend their home against overwhelming odds. "I'm terrified, Gareth. What if I lead them into disaster?" Then we face disaster together, he said simply. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. You've already beaten one man who underestimated you. These raiders are making the same mistake. On the morning of the fourth day, the raiders came. Elena first saw them from the inn's upper window, a dark line moving across the horizon like a storm cloud. There were more of them than she had hoped, at least 50 mounted warriors with weapons glinting in the pale sunlight. Positions, Gareth called from the courtyard below, and the villagers scrambled to their assigned places. They had turned the inn into the center of their defense, using overturned carts and timber barriers to create choke points that would force the raiders to fight in small groups rather than using their superior numbers. Elena took her place beside Gareth, wearing leather armor they had improvised from old harnesses and carrying the same sword she had used against Benedict. Her parents were safely hidden in the inn's cellar with the other non-combatants, and Elena tried not to think about what would happen to them if the defense failed. The raiders approached cautiously, clearly surprised to find organized resistance instead of fleeing villagers. Their leader, a massive man with braided hair and arms covered in scars, rode forward under a white flag. "I am Ragnar the Red," he called out. "Surrender now, and we'll make your deaths quick." Gareth stepped forward to respond. "I am Sir Gareth, Ironwood, and this village is under my protection. Leave now and we'll let you ride away with your lives." Ragnar laughed, a booming sound that echoed off the buildings. "One knight and a handful of farmers, this will be amusing." "One knight, a handful of farmers, and something you don't have," Gareth replied calmly. "And what's that?" "A reason to fight to the death." Ragnar's smile faded. He had expected easy conquest and frightened surrender, not defiant resistance. Elena could see him reassessing the situation, counting their defenders, evaluating their preparations. "You have one chance to reconsider," Ragnar called out. "Surrender the village's wealth and women, and we'll spare the rest." Counteroffer. Elena stepped up beside Gareth, her voice carrying clearly across the courtyard. "Leave now and we'll spare you." The raiders erupted in laughter at the sight of a woman making threats, but their laughter died when they saw the serious expressions of the villagers behind her. These people weren't afraid. They were ready to fight. Ragnar's face darkened. "So be it. Kill them all." The first wave hit their defenses like a thunderclap. Elena had never experienced real battle before, and the noise was overwhelming. The clash of weapons, the screams of wounded men and horses, the shouted orders and curses. But her training with Gareth took over, and she found herself fighting with desperate skill born of absolute necessity. The villagers held their ground better than Elena had dared hope. Thomas the blacksmith wielded his heavy hammer like a weapon of war, crushing anyone who came within reach. The baker fought with the fury of a man defending his ovens, while his wife coordinated the supply of arrows from their makeshift archers. But gradually, the raiders' superior numbers began to tell. Elena watched in horror as good people she had, known all her life, fell defending their home. Young Peter, who had always been kind to her, took a spear through the chest while protecting the inn's main door. Old Henrik, who told wonderful stories to children, died with a raider's axe in his skull. "We can't hold much longer," Thomas shouted over the din of battle. Elena looked around desperately. The raiders were pressing harder now, sensing victory. Soon they would break through the defenses and slaughter everyone inside. That's when she saw them, riders approaching from the south, their banners streaming in the wind. For a moment her heart leaped, thinking it might be the king's army arriving early. Then she saw the colors and her hope turned to despair. More raiders, reinforcements for Ragnar's force. "Gareth," she called out, pointing toward the approaching riders. Gareth followed her gaze and his face went grim. "How many?" Elena counted quickly. "At least